business value. And because it is induced by information system, we can call it information system business value. And this one in the middle here, we call medium term business value. Let me make it this slightly smaller. What I showed earlier, these capabilities, we call them short-term IS business value. So business value is created over time. And you start with the capabilities that you create. Sorry, I missed here. In the short term. And then in the medium term, you create other capabilities. I mean, what we may call make sure that you can see everything. So medium-term IS business value is those outcomes that you create in the medium term. And long-term business value is the impact that you create over time. So we see that the value an information system delivers to a business evolves over time. Basically, that's what you're saying. But what we are also saying here is that those short-term, medium-term, and long-term business values are moderated also by external environmental context or environment. Like customer preferences, by competition. If you're talking about enhancing competitiveness, will definitely be affected by the competition that is there in your business, in your market. Political forces, economic environment, things in the external environment that can affect the realization of those business values or the value that information systems will create in an organization. So that is a very important thing to realize. That although the value of information system is really determined by the internal organizational environment, the external organizational environment also plays a role. And that moderating role is very important to understand. So if we think about the implementation of information system in an organization, and this realization of business value is a complex process. It's a long process, starting with short-term capabilities that are created to medium-term business value, like business outcomes, to long-term impact in the organization, which called long-term as business value. And the best perspective that can help us to understand this is a social perspective of information systems. We have several perspectives. I will talk about this one in detail. There's another one, technical perspective, and the socio-technical perspective. But out of the perspectives that exist to understand this complex relationship between an information system and its internal organizational environment, as well as the external environment, is the information systems perspective. I mean, social perspective of information systems, which places the social context of information system at the center of conceptualization of the information system. That is, really you can't separate the information system from the social context in which it is implemented. And therefore, we argue that information systems are absorbed into a complex social as well as organizational system, and they become so inextricably entwined with it. They become an integral part, if you want to simplify that English. They become an integral part of the social and organizational system, and become inseparable from it. So that is what we call the inseparability of the social and organizational context of an information system. And that is what then is responsible for creating all those short-term value, medium-term value, and long-term value. If I move on, so I will talk about this social perspective because it's so important in understanding that complex relationship between an information system and the social and organizational perspective. And this is what a guy called Kling and Dutton defined the social context of an information system. Of course, when it is social, people must be there. Because people is what makes it social. The people, their roles, relationships with others, and with other subsystems within the organization. Of course, it also includes the technology, the hardware and the software. The techniques, like, for example, a software development methodology that an organization might be using. If we are talking about an information system that is being developed in-house. Support resources like training, support from a vendor, information structures, content providers, norms, rules. All those are part of the social context of information system. And this is what the argument goes, becomes inseparable, information system becomes inseparable from this, just like I was telling you about getting a banking service from a bank. You don't start seeing the banking system. You only see a service that you get. You know there are people behind the scenes. There is technology behind the scenes. There are all kinds of things behind the scenes. And really, you can't say this is what is doing this. It becomes such an integral part that you cannot contemplate removing it, seeing the technology away from the people and the other technological ecosystem and other things as defined by Kling and Dutton. So that social context brings all kinds of things together, both human and non-human. Equipment is non-human, vendors is humans, technical specialists is people, policies, money, users. So it brings together both human and non-human things, as you can see from up there. But the social context is dynamic. People and their relationships, the technology is changing and can be upgraded. And therefore, although we say an information system is embedded into that social and organizational context, that context is dynamic. And therefore, we start getting a matrix of social and technical dependencies in that context. So the system now, that social and organizational system, as I mentioned earlier, is composed of technology and organization, humans, people, in very complicated interdependencies. And therefore, the main assumption, or two main assumptions that are made by this social system perspective or view of an information system, is that technological elements that make up the information system mix with that social context to form an inseparable ensemble, or the higher social context becomes, the information system becomes inseparable from the social context in which it is implemented. And therefore, when we talk about the impact of information system, it is not predetermined, it is socially shaped. So when you take, let me explain this a little bit. When you say you are implementing a hospital management system, like one of the students said, they saw a hospital information system during their internship. You expect that information system to have certain impacts in the organization, whether it is in terms of efficiency, whether it is in terms of cost reduction, whether it is in terms of enhancing the productivity of the people who interact with the technology. But that impact will not necessarily happen, because that impact will depend on the people in the organization and how they relate with each other. If, for example, there is some people who resist the implementation of that hospital management system, then whether you get the impact you expected depends on this social context. So those impacts are socially shaped, and you cannot determine them in advance from this social perspective. A technical perspective would say, when we implement this, this is what we are going to get. But you ignore that social context in which the information system is implemented is not necessarily a technical context where you can predict we are going to have this efficiency. And I can give you an example of, we implemented a financial management system in the university towards the end of my days as Director of Information IT. And KU, which tended to copy what we do, picked a similar financial management system. Our system worked very well because we had determined that we didn't want to be supported by all the agents of the manufacturer of that information system, or the developer of that information system, because they had certain agents within Nairobi. And when we evaluated their capabilities, we realized that they don't have adequate technical capability to support us. And therefore, we sent our IT people to South Africa, to UK, to be trained so that they can support that system. And therefore, we implemented and we got what we expected in terms of the impacts. But in another university, that was not the case. You would expect similar impacts of the same information system. But then it depends on what is happening in the organization. If you have incompetent technical staff who cannot support the information system whenever you have challenges, then the likelihood of that information system giving you the value that you expected is very limited. Or if you have some users who do not really want to use the system, they sabotage the information system, then you do not expect to get what you had planned to get from the information system. And therefore, from a social systems perspective, because this is a social system view of the information system, the social system perspective acknowledges subsystems of the organization, whether it is people, whether it is technology, whether it is policies, but also the wider environmental factors like customer experiences, customer preferences that I mentioned earlier. And therefore acknowledges that information systems are not just technical tools, but they have profound implications for how we live, how we work, how we interact with one another. And therefore, an information system will have both positive and negative impacts. I gave an assignment to some of you students to go and look at some of the positive and negative impacts of information systems, particularly the ones coming with the emerging technologies. And I'm sure you will study this under ICT and society. So we have these things like transforming society as an impact, ethical and privacy impacts, digital inclusion and impacts, organizational impacts like effectiveness, efficiency, impacts on the culture of the organization, and even of the society in general. So some of these impacts could be positive, others could be negative. Like, for example, a lot of people are talking about misinformation, disinformation with AI, and they are seeing this as a negative aspect of an AI-based information system. But there are also positive impacts on decision-making, on the productivity of staff, on the efficiencies in an organization, and so on and so forth. So let me stop there for now and just hear some reactions. There's a lot of heavy talking here in terms of this particular view of an information system. Any comments, questions? Okay, nobody seems to be willing to risk. And therefore, I want to discuss here 7 key issues of social informatics, which is like social information systems seen from a social systems perspective. So Bob Kling, in an article that he wrote a long time ago, what is social informatics? Why does it matter? He coined the term social informatics, largely looking at information systems from a social perspective. And one of the 7 also issues is the context of an information system. And we have defined that context to be the internal organizational context consisting of people, the technology, the data, and everything else that is within that. But also the external environmental context. So the context of an information system directly affects how the information system is used. And therefore, information system is always linked to the context of its use, or even the context of its development, if you are developing the information system. an information system being developed by people who are not proficient in the development tools will not be the same as an information system that is being developed by people who are experts, who have a lot of experience in the development tools. And therefore, whether we are talking about developing an information system or implementing an information system, we cannot separate the information system from the situation in which it is developed, it is used. And I know as I was a director of a national research and education network that was providing or that provides internet, amongst other things, to universities and research institutions. And we kept on discussing about ERPs. And you find two universities, which are public universities, they have bought similar ERP, and most of them tend to buy Microsoft Dynamics. And in one university, it is having an impact and is delivering the value that was expected. But you go to another university, and then you find that people don't like the ERP. Why is that? And the ERP, in fact, in one university, the vice chancellor determined that this ERP is no good. Let's replace it. And before they could even make use of it. And they replaced it with another ERP. The problem was not the ERP. The problem was the environment within which that ERP was implemented. And therefore, since you do not, it is easy to blame technology. You blame the technology and say the technology is bad. What you don't realize is the context in which that information system is implemented. I remember probably 20, 25 years ago, KCB implementing banking software. And before it was used, they replaced it because they argued we probably made a mistake. We bought the wrong software. And we are not talking about cheap software. At that time, probably 20 years ago, it was software that was costing $500 million. And therefore, that is value you have destroyed by saying, let us replace this even before we start using it with another one worth 600 million. And what you forget is look at this the context of that information system, and you understand why it is failing or it is not giving you the value you expected. So the context of an information system directly affects how that information is used, and hence the value an organization derives from the information system. So that is one of key issues. That context is important. And that social and organizational context is really what determines whether you get value. The second important issue of social informatics is information systems are not value neutral. What does this mean? Their use creates winners and losers. So if you have implemented an information system, like let's say even take the simple example of SMIS. SMIS, the way we use it in our School of Computing and Informatics, now we are called a department, but I still call it a school. The way we use it, and we see it when we go to the faculty level. Some faculties don't know how to use the information system. This is because they're technologically challenged. Like, for example, you go to a place like Kikuyu Education campus, and you find that the lecturers don't know how to use SMIS, or they are having challenges. And therefore, you can say the people in computing and informatics are winners because they use the information SMIS and create the mark sheets showing who has passed and who has not passed, who needs to repeat a course, and so on and so forth. And their mark sheets are prepared in good time. And you go to another faculty like education, and you find that lecturers still have a challenge. So it creates winners, and winners tend to be those who are immediate adopters, who are probably technologically more advanced than the others. And the losers are those people who probably do not have the technological know-how, or they have their own other interests to be served by the information system. Therefore, information systems can be used to do different things. Like, for example, so we say it can be used implicitly or explicitly to support social and organizational structures. Like, for example, an online banking system can be used to centralize power by ICT literate top management. And therefore, that is not neutral because they are using that ICT literate top management is using that online banking to meet to achieve an end, which has nothing to do with the impact that online banking is supposed to have. And I saw this in many years ago when I was doing my PhD in the UK. People, managers, because I was studying some banks, and one CEO told me that after implementing an online banking system, he didn't require his middle management because he can interact with the information system and ask questions at any level, at branch level, and be able to see what is happening at the branch, which branches are giving out mortgages, loans, opening accounts, and to talk to the branch manager directly without all these other layers of management. And therefore, he actually told me, I don't need these layers of management that was there before. And actually, he fired all of them, and those, well, not all of them, but he gave them other responsibilities that had nothing to do with being like a layer of information. Because now with the technology that they had implemented in the bank, he could interact with where the information is generated at source, at the branch, and be able to challenge branch manager. At this rate, branch manager X, you are unlikely to meet your targets for loans by the end of the year, because I can see the trend that you have. You are not giving out loans at a rate that will enable you to meet your targets. So that is using an information system to meet your other needs, other interests, to meet your other interests that have nothing to do with the impact that you expected from the information system. That is why we say information systems are not value neutral. They give value to some people and give less value to others, depending on the difference between those two different peoples and the interests they have. So this is the second aspect, that information systems are not neutral in the way they are used. Some people will use it to meet their needs, to meet their interests, and others who can't use it to meet their interests are deemed to be losers. This is what we're saying. Yes? Are not. Yes, yes, that not is very important. Yes. 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 It has, well, it could have something to do with the training, but it could also be those people were not prepared. They were like forced to start using the system, and they started using it shingo upande, if you want to put it that way. They did not adopt the system willingly, or they have not acquired the necessary skills to use the system. So think about when we started teaching online, a lot of people had challenges. We mounted lots of training for faculty. But even then, lots of people had challenges. And therefore, there were winners, those who could use the technology flawlessly. And others who had challenges and would spend the first 30 minutes just getting going. And therefore, you can consider those to be kind of like losers, because they don't meet the needs. I mean, they don't meet the need for, I mean, what the information system was introduced in the first place to do. So basically what we're saying, by not being value neutral, information systems can be used to pursue interests of specific categories of people. If they were value neutral, then they would affect everyone in the same way. Do you get the point? Yes. So we must be careful, because and you want the information system to be as value neutral as possible. Perhaps by doing what you're saying, making sure that everybody goes through a thorough training, so that everybody exploits the information system to meet the interests of the organization, whether it is in terms of efficiency and so on and so forth. And then you try to eliminate this exploitation by some people to achieve their own ends. Yeah, so this is another issue. So context of information system is critical, and it affects how the information system is used and the impact it has. And secondly, now information systems are not value neutral. They can be exploited by certain groups of people to meet their interests, whatever those interests.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I was asking, does social systems perspectives affect inclusivity, or it's just the perspective? It doesn't. It has nothing to do with any particular group of people not being completely able to use a system, maybe visually impaired, maybe, or it's just the perception of the general perception of those who are supposed to use it.
how do I respond to that? Ideally, you want to make the information systems as neutral as possible, so that you avoid this exploitation to meet specific needs or interests of groups and individuals. And therefore, you want the information system to be used by everybody in the same way, whether it is those who are technologically more advanced than others, whether it is those who were resisting the information system in the first place, whether it is people who are in the rural areas, who might not have same level of technological know-how, or even the connectivity. Like, for example, if you're using, you can imagine an information system that is used for pension, and pensioners interact with that information system directly. You can imagine the pensioners in the rural areas and how they will interact with that information system. It's not the same way as pensioners based in Nairobi. And therefore, in your implementation of information system, you want to reduce that gap, and therefore make the information system as inclusive as possible. Yeah, to come back to your inclusivity. So that somebody who is in Mandera is not disadvantaged in using that information system. Somebody who is visually impaired is not disadvantaged in using that system. So you want to break the barriers to information systems use, so that it includes as much as possible everybody. Are we together, Gregory?
Yes.
Okay. The third issue about information systems is a very, very interesting point about multiple and paradoxical effects. So an information system, in one context, like in public universities, I mentioned before, can be used to achieve certain outcomes. The same information system, like an ERP in another university, cannot be able to achieve the same outcomes. So we, as organizations, I give an example there of paperlessness. Organizations, by introducing email, they were trying to decrease paper and movement of paper in terms of memos and all kinds of things. But in other situations, can be used to increase paper or the use of paper. I remember when email came, people were still printing the emails to show evidence that I have sent the email to you. So that organization is actually increasing the amount of paper. In another organization of similar organization, it is used to eliminate physical paper in terms of memos and decisions that are written on paper. It is because those people where it is having the desired effect of reducing paper are very conscious of what you need to do to reduce paper. You should not print the email. And if anybody prints the email, they are going against what the adoption of email was supposed to achieve, using a very simple example. So those two effects are paradoxical. In one situation, it is being used to achieve this. In another situation, it can't achieve that. It achieves the opposite or something different. That's why the word multiple is there. Multiple effects, which are not necessarily the same, sometimes contradictory effects. An information system being used to increase efficiency in one organization, and the same information system being used in a similar organization doesn't achieve efficiency. Actually, it reduces efficiency, because people never thought about the other elements of the information system. Because the information system is just one of the cogs in the wheel, so to speak, in terms of achieving efficiency. You forgot the social context in which it is implemented. And therefore, you have to shape the social context so that the information system gives you the value that was desired in the first place. So when you implement an information system in organizations, we must be clear that, okay, we are implementing this hospital management system, but we must shape the social context of that information system, the social and organizational context, so that we get the desired end. If we just look at it as technology only, we are implementing without thinking about the other elements that interact with that information system, then we are unlikely to get the effects or the impacts that information system was supposed to have in the first place. But then we have the other concept of unintended consequences. That for some reason or another, although you wanted to increase efficiency and effectiveness, which is the intended consequence or impact, systems become unreliable over time, making staff unable to achieve the objectives, which is efficiency and effectiveness. So over time of using this information system, you start now going against the original intention of efficiency and effectiveness. And therefore, if then you are not careful and do not maintain the system very well with your vendors or with your internal staff, then you start going against the original value, which was increase the efficiency and effectiveness of the people who use the information system. So this is the third very interesting point about information systems use leading to multiple and sometimes paradoxical effects. Because of those two issues, that information systems can be used to achieve similar or different outcomes in similar situations, or because of these unintended consequences. And it all speaks to, when you look at information systems, don't look at them without looking at the social and organizational context in which it is implemented. And know what do you need to do to the structure of the organization, what do you need to do to the culture of the organization so that it's supportive. What do you need to do with the people, whether it is training, whether it is bringing new people, and so on and so forth. So we cannot, as information systems professionals, we cannot be naive and think it is just a piece of technology and it will, like magic, create this value that we want with the organization without thinking about the context in which it is implemented. Just remember the seed that I mentioned earlier. You plant a seed. If the environment, the soil environment is bad, then the seed will not give you the value you expected, whether it is a healthy plant or some fruits. And then also think about the external environment. If there is drought, then the seed will not grow, will not germinate, the tree will not grow to give the whatever, unless you have another intervention like watering the plant, because to mitigate against drought, which is an external environment. So basically, what we are seeing with this different aspects of information system or social informatics is, as IT people, we cannot be naive and just think about the technology without thinking about all these other things, because they affect what we get out of that technology. The fourth point is information systems have moral and ethical impacts, some which are positive and others which are negative. We saw that before. Like a smart card system being used for surveillance and control without informed consent of employees, for example. Moral, automation being used to restructure jobs and making people redundant. That's a moral issue, because you're going to, some people are going to have no livelihood because of that automation. And you remember when tea picking machines were introduced in Kericho, and the unions started saying these things are supposed to, they are finishing us, because many families will not find work to do because those machines are picking tea while it was being picked by people who will lose those jobs. So that's a moral issue. And people are looking at AI and saying there's a moral issue here. If it is used some jobs will disappear. But that you have to balance that with also the positive impacts of that technology. And this you will do in your ICT and society course. Very interesting. Information systems are configurable. So the configurability of an information system is changing, reprogramming the technical aspects of the information system to meet business needs. So if business needs change, you need to change the technical system to meet the changed business need. Like, for example, a human resource management system can be modified to be used for recruitment. And we talked about in 316 recruitment as a process of human resource management. Then the information system is modified so that it can pick a CV and be able to look at certain parameters with the CV, the qualifications, the experience, and so on and so forth, and compare it with the requirements of the job and try to match and say this is the most qualified person to do this job. And therefore, you have modified the information system. And ideally, an information system should be configurable. If you make a program, an application, that cannot be changed, nobody will want to take that, to buy that information system from you. Because we want an information system that can be changed. Because what you develop the information system to do may change. Because those are business requirements. Those requirements change. And when they change, the system, the technical aspect of the system should change to meet those needs or to meet the changed needs. But also, very interestingly, what we don't talk about is What about the social and organizational system or subsystem? It also needs to be configurable. But this is not what this is addressing. This is addressing the configurability of the technical aspect of the information system. But you can also talk about the configurability of the social and organizational aspect of the information system. We should be able to change the structure, for example. We should just be able to change our business process so that we meet or we achieve the value, the business value of the information system. So configurability of the technical aspects of the information system. This sixth one is about when you see an information system, it has a historical component. And therefore, when you look at an information system, you cannot divorce it from the history and the future. So if you look at the SMIS in the university, it has been shaped by historical forces that are partly technical and partly social. So there's a history of the social component, there's a history of the technical component, and I kept on telling you we faced lots of resistance from a social perspective when we were implementing the information system in the university, SMIS in the university. But at the same time, there's a history of the technological aspects of this. We developed this information system initially in an Oracle platform. But with time, the technological aspect of this, the development platform changed. And now some of you guys were saying, we also need to change the platform and integrate other technologies like AI. Those are the technical aspects of the information system. So when you see an information system, like for example, the challenges that we have with SMIS, and some of you have been unhappy about, and even some of us have been unhappy about it, is partly technological aspect in terms of the development platform, and also social, like, okay, let me also mention some of the more other technical aspects that you might have developers who are not competent. And that gives you a challenge. And therefore the output will always be challenging. So when you see an information system, you must realize it has a social history, that from a technical perspective, but has also a social history. And you have to understand that. If you don't understand that, then you might make the wrong decision. And therefore, the future of any information system cannot be divorced from its history. The future of SMIS cannot be divorced from the history and how it has evolved over time, both from a technological perspective and from a social perspective. The last aspect is one we call coevolution of information system. And therefore, we are saying an information system evolves with the social context. If the social context changes, then the information system should also change. And I've given some examples there. Software design reflects an ongoing discourse among developers and between developers, users, and other stakeholders. So as that context changes, the information system should also change. And therefore, an information system unfolds over time, evolves over time. A mutual adaptation between the information system and the social system in which it has been implemented. So as the social system changes, whether it is processes, whether it is people, whether it is any other aspect of the social system, then the information system should change. As the university changes its rules for exams as a part of the social system, then SMIs must evolve in a similar way to reflect that adaptation. So these are the 7 aspects of information system being seen from a social informatics perspective. The context of IS affects how information systems are used, that systems are not value neutral. It can be used to achieve other ends. Information system can lead to multiple and sometimes contradictory effects. Information systems having moral or ethical impacts, positive and negative. The technical aspects of information system being configurable to meet specific business needs. And that information systems cannot be divorced from their history. And that history is both social and technical. And then finally, coevolution. That mutual adaptation between the information system and the social system in which it is implemented. So I want to stop there with respect to this and ask whether there are any questions before I talk about other perspectives, because I focused on the social systems. Any questions, comments? So when you look at that social systems perspective of information system, you start then questioning yourself: Am I then ready to be an information system professional out there? When you start working, and when you start working, you start realizing you know very little. Yes, you might have technical skills, technological skills, but the information system is much larger than just technology. You start realizing it is important. People are important. Structures are important. Relations are important. Strategy is important. And so on and so forth. Vendors and things that are outside the organization are important. And the success or failure can come from anywhere, least from the technological aspects. And I don't know what I mentioned this before. The success or failure of information system really depends on very many other aspects. And you can only understand this if you look at information system from a social perspective. So, any questions so far? Let me just very quickly talk about the other 2 perspectives that have been popular. One, the original one, is the technical perspective, and this one is probably what you are familiar with. And basically, it's the technical the technical perspective is a technological perspective, and looks at an information system as composed of all these pieces of technology, whether it's hardware, software, networking, data, and all this, or databases. So this is the naive perspective, which you tend to have as you do your degree in computer science. Thinking that when you are employed to develop an information system or to manage or to administer an information system, it is all about technology. And you go there and realize, oh my goodness, there's more to it than technology. So this is the technological perspective. And if you remember our discussion in 316, we talked about mechanistic views of organizations. It is aligned to that mechanistic view of organizations. So there are some issues there. You focus on standards, you focus on models, functional requirements. And therefore, you take a systems engineering approach. You start thinking about adopting structured methodologies, structured methods for project management, for software development, so that you can be able to be efficient, effective, and you develop your information system within budget. But it's a naive, very naive perspective that largely focuses on technology and everything else that relates to the technology. You start looking at everything from a technical perspective. And the socio-technical came to being because people said this technical perspective does not really express the reality in organizations. Organizations have got people, and people relate to other people, and they relate to other subsystems. And therefore, the social aspects of information system become very important. And therefore, a socio-technical approach recognizes the intricate interplay between the technological components, which is from the technical perspective, and the human aspects of information systems. The social system went beyond human. This socio-technical was largely focusing on human and the technological. So recognizing that the technology is not just technology. Software is used by people to achieve specific goals, which are technical, like organizational efficiency. But they also interact with people. The technology interacts with people, and that is a social aspect of an information system. So this came to be called the socio-technical systems perspective, STS. And basically, it recognizes the social aspects of information system. And even when this was popular in the 60s, but it created even in the 80s very interesting, like information system. This is where you start considering the views of users, user-centric software development methodologies, because you all of a sudden you realize that users are very important, and getting their views and developing the information system to meet their needs and perspectives is important. And therefore, from a socio-technical perspective, you want to optimize the technical or the technological aspects, but at the same time also optimize the social aspect of the information system. Can I meet the needs of the users? Can I meet the needs? Can I factor in the perspectives of users, of management, not just in developing technology to meet specific things like efficiency? What are the views of others? Can I factor them in developing the information system? I remember when we were developing SMIS, we were automating specific policies of the university. And one of the policy was a student cannot be registered to pursue a course if they have not paid fees. And therefore, a lot of students could not register because, and paying fees means full payment of fees. If, for example, it's for a computer science program, you have paid everything at the beginning of the semester. And therefore, you cannot register for courses until you have paid. But a lot of people then started complaining. Parents started complaining. Very senior people started complaining. Mr. Vice Chancellor, why can't you allow us to pay slowly? Why do we have to pay at the beginning everything? And therefore, that forced us to go back to the information system, to SMIS, and say, maybe you can register before you're fully paid. And at the time, we were saying you should probably, at registration, should have paid 50%. Somewhere along the line, but before you sit for the exam, you should have paid 100%. So we had coded that into the system. And therefore, the system will not produce an exam card if you have not paid 100%. And therefore, we became now flexible to the social aspects of the information system, which is the parents who are paying fees for the students who have a different view. They thought that this is not a useful requirement, that you cannot be registered until you have paid 100% of the fees. And it's not in line with what happens in the reality of the sponsors, that they might not have all the money, but somewhere along the line, before the semester ends, they will find the money and pay. And therefore, we had to change the information. And that took a while to agree on this. So we accommodated the social aspects of the information system. So HCI, human computer interaction, it was born out of this socio-technical, because you are recognizing the social aspects of an information system. So I don't want to go beyond there. I want to leave it. I want to leave it at that point. You can. This is the last slide, and therefore I have an assignment, which I think we gave earlier to these 15 people, and that assignment should be in by when? The first assignment is already in. The second assignment is already in. Did we put a timeline for this third assignment on information system security? I think we said this week, did we?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the second week. So by the end of this week, which is by 25th. Yeah? By Friday 25th. It should be there. This is one of the other aspects we are supposed to look at. security, but I know you have security courses. But I gave this so that you can look at different aspects of information system security. Any questions, comments? So when we meet on Thursday, we shall look at we shall have presentations from the people who did assignment 1 did presentations, but not all of them. We shall finish those and then move to the people who did assignment 2 to make presentations. And then later we will move to assignment 3 for these people to make, so you will be asked at one stage or another to make presentations on this. And as we normally say, please do not go and try to copy from an AI, from ChatGPT and all kinds of things. You can do your research, but related to this context, we are talking about SMIS. And if you need to go and learn a little bit more about SMIS, you can talk to Dr. Caro, whom I introduced you to the other time. So we'll stop there for now, and we'll see you on Thursday. Thank you very much. So those who did assignment 1 and 2, please be ready to present.